It's the Gear Tester here, and welcome to my initial impressions video on the Kahr Spyderco Delica 4 knife. This knife is manufactured by Spyderco, and it bears the name of Kahr Arms. It is a modified or specialized little knife, a special edition of the Spyderco Delica line. It weighs in at 2.5 ounces, and it has an overall blade length of 2.5 inches. And that is important because it allows you to carry this knife in certain locations where a blade over that length of 2.5 inches would be illegal. But it also includes a relatively decent-sized handle. It's not a full-size knife. This is not a large knife. This is what I would still call a medium-sized pocket knife. When I compare it to things like my Benchmade Griptilian, which I'll grab right here, my full-size Griptilian, the Spyderco Delica 4 handle is smaller. It is thinner, okay, but not by a whole lot. And so this ends up being a knife with the appropriate sized blade for legal carry in certain locations, but also a big enough grip that you can actually manipulate the knife, whether that's for defensive purposes or whether that's for just doing EDC tasks. Now, I don't live in the locations where I would need to have a 2.5 inch blade, okay? But I like this knife, and I like the blade profile, and it interests me. And so I actually was very interested in purchasing this knife, and a couple young men from my church, actually 3 young men from my church group, tricked me into telling them that this was a knife that I was looking at, and they actually purchased it for me as a gift. And I'm very grateful to those young men who chipped in their money. This is not a cheap knife. It runs around $70 or $80, and I'm very grateful that they spent their hard-earned money to give me a gift, which I very much appreciate. So this is not a knife that I personally paid for, but it is a knife that I have been wanting for a while now. Just because it's very delicate, very small. I like the unique blade shape. This blade shape lends itself more to self-defense than it does EDC tasks because of that point. I like the fact that it's got this kind of matte finish. It is not a polished metal, okay, like this knife there, like the Benchmade. And I just think it's a very interesting and unique knife. It comes in 3 different colors: a blue, a very light kind of khaki or tan, and then the black handle there. And it's kind of a specialized run of knives. There is some question about whether it's still in production or isn't in production. It's still very much available, at least the last time I checked online, so I think it's still in production, but it is a specialized version of the Delica 4 from Spyderco. So I've been carrying it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks here, and have really enjoyed it. And again, I just want to talk a little bit about why I feel that this blade shape lends itself more to a defensive purpose than EDC. And that means I'm going to need to bring out another knife here. This is the mini Benchmade Griptilian, if I can find it in my pocket here. I'm just going to talk a little bit about blade shapes here. This has got another kind of modified, unique blade shape. But you can see this blade shape lends itself more to doing cutting tasks, whether that's food, whether that's any number of things. That blade slides easily across, and then it kind of pulls up, okay? And that kind of swept up blade shape. It's actually, this blade shape was designed on my Benchmade here for skinning, okay? Because you can run it long like so and just open up the belly of an animal, okay, and skin it without potentially clipping the intestines of the animal. So that's what this blade shape is designed for, both here on the small Griptilian and the large Griptilian. Okay, but these would be kind of a good representation of many everyday carry blade shapes that allow you to cut and allow the blade to kind of follow through and so forth. This really sticks in the stuff, and I noticed that instantaneously when I was using it, and I went to cut open a package of water bottles just to remove the plastic, and it just bit right into one of the water bottles. This tip bites in, okay, and this tip wants to cut in and direct the knife through things. It actually really bites in very easily, and it actually is relatively thick. It is not nearly as thin a profile, if we can, my camera will focus there, this maintains a relatively thick tip for the size of the knife. And that means that it's going to be more robust. It's going to be stronger. And so in a defensive situation, when you be cutting at a person, cutting at arms in particular, or hands, to get them to get off of you in a defensive situation, this style of Wharncliffe blade shape is potentially better for that. It's not as good at stabbing, but for cutting, and because this is such a short blade, cutting is what you're going to be doing with it rather than stabbing. I think that it lends itself better in a defensive purpose and defensive use. And that's one of the reasons that I was interested in it. Look, I've never been in a knife fight. I don't ever intend to be in a knife fight. But it is a cool blade, and it's an interesting idea to me. And so I am very glad to have this knife and be testing it out. My full review on this knife will come in a couple months, maybe a month or two from now, just because I want to have really carried it. I'll continue to carry it here, and I'll have the better part of 3 months of carrying this knife before I do my next review on it. Thank you very much for watching my initial impressions here on this excellent knife. If you like this video, I would encourage you to subscribe to my channel. I have many other reviews on the topics of shooting, camping, and survival gear. Thank you very much for your views and your subscriptions. This is the Gear Tester signing off.